So hey everybody, this is Mr. Bells. Just wanted to let you know that this is information or notes for Geo A, and this should be lesson 1. So I'm going to do my best with some of this information to kind of go through it here so you guys have an idea which each one of the lessons is about. And again, this isn't offsetting what you guys do in the book. You need to read the stuff and take a look at it, but I'm going to talk to you about a few different things. Okay, so here we go. So first off, in geometry they have little things right here. These things are called points, and points technically take up they have no size, they have no dimensions, they just have something called a location. And so here's a point right here, here's a point right here, and then in geometry we have all kinds of different things that we use with them. So those are points. We have, given any 2 points, there exists something called a line that goes through those 2 points and extends in both directions forever. And then if you had 3 of these points that were not in a line, then they would fit like on this sheet of paper in something called a plane. And we usually use a parallelogram to represent 3 points that happen to be in a plane. Okay, so a couple key definitions here again. So these are points, this is a line, this is a plane. And in mathematics, these are considered undefined terms, because in different geometries you could define points, lines, and planes to be different things. We're going to stick with something called Euclidean geometry, and that's all something in a straight plane. So collinear points are points that all lie on a line. So these points right here across here are all collinear because they all on the same line. This one right over here is not collinear with all of those points. Okay, coplanar means that they all fit in the same plane, and all of these points you could see that they're in the same plane. But if I drew something like this up through here and then dash this out so that you could see that that's coming maybe up through the plane, kind of like this pen is right now. Not on the plane of paper, it's straight up in the air. Coplanar points are ones that are all in the same plane. This point right here would not be considered to be in plane A, it's sticking itself up above it. Okay, is that good? So collinear and coplanar. So those are some of your basic notes for the first part of these things. And then we have things called, given 2 points just like this. We'll put a point A and a point B in here. If we connect those 2 points, and this is called a segment. So a segment is all the points between 2 points and including them. And these points right here, A and B, are called endpoints of a segment, endpoints. And shorthand notation wise, we can call it AB or we can call it BA, and those 2 little dashes on the top refer to a segment. Cool. Now if I had a point C and a point D here, and I went from C, starting at C, through D, and kept going on and on and on forever and ever and ever, like way over there, billions of miles, it never ends. This is considered a ray, because it goes in one direction forever, and we call that ray CD, and the little notation would go just like this. Now just so we know, not flippable, can't call that ray DC, okay, because ray DC technically would be this one right here. Pretend it's going through those 2 points, D and C, but it would start at D and go through C and go on forever. So whichever one doesn't have the arrowhead is the beginning point, and it starts there and continues to the other one. So we are not allowed to call that ray DC. DC would go in the opposite direction. Okay, so if we had some points here like this, let's say this was A and this was B and this was C, then technically, if I draw some little arrowheads on there, ray AB, like that one, that's this going this direction, right? And ray AC starts at A, right? Starts at A and goes this direction. Those take up everything on this, and the only point that they share is A, so these are technically called opposite rays. Good deal. So these are some of the vocabulary that you'll see in there. So being able to name segments and rays and lines and planes and all that stuff is really important when we do that. So next thing, let's say that we have two lines here. Two lines that kind of cross just like this. Well, we consider this point right here A an intersection point. So it's where two things touch. Intersection point. So the intersection of two lines happens to be a point. Now the intersection of two planes, so let's say that I had the flat piece of paper right here, and then I folded it up, and this was another plane that was going straight up into the air. You can see the intersection of these two planes happens to be a line. Okay, and that's all the points that are in this plane, the one that's going vertically up, and all the points that are on the flat one. Okay, good deal. And do two planes always have to intersect in a line? Nope. Like, see this piece of paper right here and this piece of paper right here, you can see that there's space for my hand to reach underneath. So it could be just like your ceiling and your floor in your room, for the most part, unless you have some slanted ceilings, hopefully not slanted floors. They could be parallel, so there could be no intersection at all between those planes. Or it could be like the intersection right up there in the corner of the room. So there's the plane that's this wall right here, and the plane that's that wall right there, and then the ceiling up there. Those three planes actually intersect in one little point, and you can see it right there, that point right up there in that corner. Good deal. So different types of intersections with different types of things going on. Okay? So there are stuff in your textbook, and I'm just going to talk through a couple of these things here, like this little box right in here. And it says name a point that is collinear with points E and H. Well, E and H are right here. Collinear in that case would be something like J from that picture. Okay, you can see because of the box the way it is with these hidden lines in here. It's showing three-dimensional space. So if I said name a plane in here, so a plane I have to use at least three non-collinear points. So I can't use EJH, right? Because EJH is on that plane and EJH is on the bottom plane. So the 3 points have to define one and only one plane. So like H, D, and C, that's enough to define it. Now if I want to include G with it too, I could do that. But we try and minimize this stuff. We don't want to use letters that we don't need. So plane HDC or plane CGH or plane CDG all define that right edge of that box. Okay? So looking at 25, I'll just talk about a couple things. It says error analysis. So on this 25 and 26, describe and correct the error in naming opposite rays. So we're looking for opposite rays in this picture. So it says ray AD and ray AC are opposite rays. Well, AD goes this direction and AC goes that direction. Well, by definition, opposite rays have to form a line with no overlapping points outside of the endpoint A. So because AC goes here and AD goes here, that wouldn't work. Now what about opposite rays AD and AX? Think about that for a second. Hopefully you said no, those are not opposite rays, because those go the same direction. So AD and AB could be considered opposite rays. That would work for us. Okay, so again, these are kind of the basic stuff for it. You'll notice in when you read through the stuff or look at some of the things in here, you're going to do your best to draw some of the pictures that we try to usually use uppercase letters to define points in our spots. If we talk about a line, we might use cursive. You can see this right here. So plane P intersecting line L. So when we use lines, we try and do that in a little more cursive notation or lowercase stuff right here. And that should get you through some basics of 1-1, and hopefully you can visualize some of the three-dimensional spaces that are in here. So again, there you go. There's Mr. Bell's. This video was for geometry for section 1-1. Just some quick information for you. Hopefully this is beneficial to you. But again, it helps to read the book. Make sure you take care of the homework and that stuff too. Haven't moved enough in the last few minutes, so the lights just went out here. Talk to you later.